Atlanta, where Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, just surrendered to Georgia authorities on charges of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election. Meadows was booked, fingerprinted, got his mugshot taken, and paid his $100,000 bond after days of unsuccessfully trying to prevent his surrender.
And this comes as we're waiting for former President Donald Trump to turn himself in, marking his fourth arrest so far this year. Our senior investigative reporter, Aaron Katersky, is outside the Fulton County Jail, where Trump is going to surrender. And he joins us now, along with investigative reporter and producer Olivia Rubin. She's nearby the Fulton County Courthouse, and contributor presidential historian Mark Updegrove, and Anna Bauer, who's correspondent for Lawfare, a website which takes a real good look at these kinds of cases. Aaron, let me just begin with you. Bring us up to speed on what we know at this hour.
Former President Trump says he's coming here this afternoon. He says he's going to be proudly arrested. He even listed the time, Terry. Arrest time 7:30, according to a Trump post on social media a short while ago. He isn't even in the air yet, but already there is a lot of police activity that's been going on. Sheriff's deputies from here in Fulton County and nearby counties coming to help provide security, even though there is no known threat. And only a handful or so of protesters at a different entrance of the jail. The former president is expected to go through the motions that all of the other criminal defendants here go through, including Mark Meadows, who just left after being booked on criminal charges, including racketeering. Meadows was accused of coming down here to Georgia to try and witness an audit of the Georgia vote that was not supposed to be open to the public. Meadows was also accused of arranging the browbeating phone call by former President Trump to Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State.
So, Anna, Brad Raffensperger, as Aaron just mentioned, and others were subpoenaed as part of this hearing on Mark Meadows' efforts to move his case to federal court. Let's just talk about the significance of this hearing and that subpoena.
Right. So, of course, Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, the call that Trump made to Raffensperger is what set in motion this investigation back in January of 2021. And it then, sprawled into a much larger investigation. And 2.5 years later, here we are with 19 co-defendants in Fulton County. And at that hearing on Monday, at issue is whether or not Mark Meadows can move his case from state court to federal court. And that hearing is what's called an evidentiary hearing. It means that witnesses can be called. And the state of Georgia has already called 4 witnesses, including Brad Raffensperger. So it's expected that at that hearing, we will kind of get a preview of what Fulton County prosecutors are expected to show at trial. So I think that it will be a fascinating day in federal court as the judge mulls whether or not to move this case into federal court. It could have massive consequences for the rest of the case, because there is precedent saying that if one person moves their case into federal court, then the rest of the defendants will also be moved as well. So it will be a very significant day in the Fulton County case on Monday when Raffensperger and other witnesses show up to testify.
And Anna, if I could just ask you quickly, what is the legal justification for taking a case under state law out of the state court and into the federal court? I know several of these defendants have an argument on that. What is it?
Right. So there is a years-old statute that allows this. It allows federal officials who, within the scope of their official duties, are then charged for a state crime for that conduct. They are allowed under this statute to seek to remove a state criminal prosecution to federal court. But of course, that requires showing that the federal official was doing the charged conduct in the scope of their duties. So we saw yesterday, Fani Willis responded to this argument from Mark Meadows. He has been claiming that all of the things that it is alleged that he did, setting up phone calls between Brad Raffensperger and Trump, and then also Trump and Francis Watson, who was an investigator with the Secretary of State, those types of things, Mark Meadows says, were a part of his official duties as chief of staff. And then Fani Willis responded by saying, no, this is political activity. It was outside of the scope of your official duties. And so therefore, you cannot move this case to federal court. Of course, it's important to say that if the case is moved to federal court, it will still be Fani Willis who is prosecuting the case. These will still be state charges that are not pardonable under federal law under the presidential pardon power. So the consequences here just include getting a federal judge, getting a federal forum, and importantly, a federal jury pool that could be a bit more friendly potentially to some of the arguments that are expected to be made.
So, Olivia, District Attorney Fani Willis, as you know, is pushing rather to get a speedy trial date, right? And Trump's already pushing back. How are we going to see this play out?
Well, just to sort of back up for a minute, we have this new trial proposed date from Fani Willis for October 23rd. And how we got here, Kira, is essentially another defendant in the case filed what you noted is called a motion for a speedy trial. And that essentially means I'm ready to go right now with this trial. And you have to try me within a certain amount of time, which is a very small amount of time here in this case. Otherwise, by law, he is acquitted. So we saw that motion come in from the defendant, Kenneth Chesebro, and now Fani Willis responded with her new trial date for all of the defendants. That is October 23rd. And no surprise now, Kira, former President Donald Trump is weighing in to say, no, we oppose that date. And his brand new attorney, Stephen Sado, is saying, and also, we intend to file a motion, Kira, to sever this case. And essentially, we don't want to be associated with any defendant who is seeking speedy trial, Kenneth Chesebro or anyone else, and we want a hearing to hear this matter. So already sort of legal battle lines being drawn in the sand here, and very little agreement about when, how, or when this will go forward.
Well, that is partly the cost Fani Willis will pay for indicting so many people on such a sprawling and sweeping indictment. They aren't going to agree on things like this, and she's got to hope that the judges can sort it out for her. So, Mark, as our presidential historian, just talk a little bit about the fact that the country's about to see the mugshot of a former president. And I've never liked the fact that the government does perp walks and mugshots. It seems unfair. The government saying this guy's guilty, which is proved at trial, but we're going to see it anyway. What's this historic impact of this whole moment?
Oh, I think it's huge, Terry. I mean, the only thing that is even remotely similar to this are the previous arrests of Donald Trump. But there's a big difference in this case. He's going to a county jail, and he might actually have a mugshot. And that mugshot is bound to be an icon in American history. And in present day, it's bound to be a symbol for supporters of Donald Trump. It's bound to be a symbol of his defiance. And for detractors of Donald Trump, it's bound to be a symbol of his criminality. But I can see that resonating in American history and almost, Terry, being a symbol of Donald Trump and his political presence in our nation.
I can already see MAGA taking advantage of this. The caps, the T-shirts, the buttons, the you name it. Yep. Aaron, so far, at least 11 defendants have surrendered there in Georgia. We're still waiting for Mark Meadows' mugshot. What about the rest of them?
Harrison Floyd surrendered too, and he was accused of traveling here to Georgia with an intent to try and harass one of the poll workers that Rudy Giuliani had falsely accused of stealing ballots. Ruby Freeman gave some rather memorable testimony before the January 6th committee about what it was like to have the former president of the United States' lawyer harassing her and making all these accusations about what she supposedly did, even though she didn't. And a number of the defendants have been charged with that kind of conduct, trying to pressure some of these poll workers or strong-arm them into giving testimony that they didn't want to give. Unlike other defendants that have turned themselves in so far, though, Harrison Floyd did not prearrange his bond. So right now, he is in custody here at the Fulton County Jail, and no telling when he's going to be released.
All right, a big day there. Aaron, Olivia, Anna, and Mark, thanks very much for helping us cover it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.